Hi, Sherri Barna here. I am with Geoff Fitzgerald, a huge, awesome photographer in the Toronto, Hamilton area, and he's been doing amazing things. I wanted to touch base with him. Welcome, Geoff. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so you want to tell me about what's happening? I've been following you on Instagram. I know you have been taking pictures of the Maple Leafs, Drake, Radiohead, all these crazy high-profile people. How in the world did that happen?
Yeah, it's I definitely feel super lucky to be able to, have been given these opportunities to work with some, higher profile people, and it's been awesome for sure. Yeah, geez, where do I start there? St. John's College. I mean, there you go, high school.
Photography class, Mr. Stefano.
High school, yeah, exactly, high school photography class. Actually, it was Nicole McDonald, who was my girlfriend at the time in high school, and she took photography. And I was more into visual arts. I was drawing and, doing this kind of thing. And she sort of showed me some of the projects that she was working on at the time. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I really think the idea of, freezing time and kind of this moment in time is really fascinating. And so I literally was just like, almost like a love at first sight kind of thing. I was just like, oh, cool. Like, I hadn't really been exposed to a lot of photography. Like, my parents had a camera, and there was a few photos taken in the family when I was growing up, but not to any extent where like my parents were shoving a camera in my hand or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I started, so I took the class in high school, totally loved it. Finished that class, felt like, okay, at the time it was film still for us. So, I'm like, how can I get back into the dark room and use the facility? And so, I ended up being Mr. Stefano's teacher or helper or whatever it is the next year.
Okay.
So that kind of got me a 2 year in a row sort of access to the dark room kind of thing. So that was nice.
Yeah.
From there, I thought after that year, I was like, okay, this is it. I love this. I really enjoy photography. I'd really like to continue a career in this. I applied to Sheridan College out of school, and I got rejected.
Oh, okay.
And so, I was like, oh, bummer. Okay. And it's actually kind of interesting because that was like at a very young age. I think that was like my first real taste of like defeat and kind of having to take that and sort of like persevere and like push myself to like work on so essentially I took a year off, I worked, and during that period I shot and developed a new portfolio. Yeah. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm getting in next year for sure. So I applied to Humber and I applied to Sheridan, and that year I got into both. So I ended up going to Sheridan.
All right.
Yeah.
I was actually cleaning my basement the other day, and I saw because we had pictures and pictures and pictures, like so many actual pictures. So I opened this box. It was all from like photography class with like Matt Bayless, James Hydu. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a blast from the past. It was funny.
You'll have to share some of those with me.
I actually went to go look. I threw them out. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, no.
I threw everything.
Yeah, I think I have a handful of my assignments from college still, but high school. I think the only thing I have in film was we did an art trip to New York for art class. And it was like, so it's like a whole bunch of photos of me and Heidi just like being ridiculous the whole time.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
But go ahead, sorry.
So from developing actual film to now everything's digital, how are you doing with that? Like, what kind of programs do you use? Do you spend a lot of time in post?
So my progression was essentially just like I took a 2-year program at Sheridan. And when I was starting Sheridan College at the time, it was still film-based. So, the first year, it was a 2-year program. First year was all film. I didn't touch digital until second year. And when I say film, like we were handed a 4x5 camera, which is, the old school, big, massive, huge camera with a sheet over your head and carry it around in a massive box. And, we really went from like high school pictures to, like heavy duty, real deal here. And so it was interesting. And I actually feel really lucky that I was able to, have that analog experience before digital really took over. Because I don't know, it just like, it allows, I think, somebody to really understand the fundamentals behind exposure and frame. So many different elements of photography now with digital are just like shoot 25 million photos and like, oh, okay, this one is the good one, instead of framing, composing, getting your exposure right, and snapping that single photo. But yeah, I think for me, like second year, we started getting into the more digital sort of area of things. And I think it was a natural progression for me. We went into digital SLRs. I left college, moved to Toronto, and from there received, I got some gear. I bought a digital SLR, and to be honest, kind of that's it. It's kind of the rest is history, as they say. So my progression into digital has been fairly natural. However, I've actually been finding myself to be reverting back to film.
Same here.
Yeah.
There's something about it that's really unique looking.
So. Well, it's got such there's a feel to it. There's a tactile just texture to the photo, and also like, whether it be your phone or your computer or your digital camera or your Nintendo system, like everything has a camera in it now. It's funny, and so everything is instantaneous, right? And the idea, the excitement for me is in just not knowing what you got until you have your film developed. Yeah. So it's that surprise, it's that kind of anticipation, and it makes you sort of, when you are, as I said, composing your photo, and it makes you really slow down and take your time.
Yeah.
And I think that allows you to really look and visualize your image and ensure you grab the photo that you needed to grab. So I think that's it. And then, you get your film, whatever, a week later, and it's like, it's cool. Actually, I've been finding myself holding on to film even longer before I get it developed, so that I forget intentionally what I shot.
Yeah.
So then when I get my film, I'm like, oh my God, that's right, I took that photo. And you kind of relive those moments. And not only that, but as an artist and as somebody who is always incredibly critical of your own work,
yeah,
I think it actually allows you to look at those photos under a different eye. Mm-hmm. Because what happens with photography, I think what happens is a lot of times people think their photos are amazing because they relate an emotional connection to it.
Yeah.
They just, oh man, I love this photo because it touched you. You remember it. You have a fondness for it, versus looking at the actual critical elements of a photo and what makes it very good. So it allows you to be more critical of your own work.
Yeah, that's very true. And the thing I love about photos, it does sort of tell a story. So sometimes the story is only for you, because like I said, going through that box, I'm like, oh man, we went to Chinatown. That was so fun. Yeah. But really, when I looked at the pictures, they weren't very good. Like they just weren't. At the time, I probably thought they were wonderful. But then I'm like, no, I don't love the pic. They're not very good. Like I had like 1 out of maybe 100 that I would actually be proud of. Yeah. But it was more it was like the emotion. I'm like, oh man, it just brought me back. Boom. 15 school. And so
it just jogs that memory. It jogs that sort of that emotional sort of connection that we elicit to the photo. And so, I saw a documentary of film. Was it maybe 2 years ago, and this guy had bags of film. Like bags of it, and he would, as I said, intentionally wait to develop it so that he can be more critical of his photos. Okay. I found that to be really quite interesting.
Yeah,
it's a really neat approach. But yeah, as far as social media and stuff goes, with film, if you are shooting film, there's a lot of places that, for example, will develop your film and they scan it immediately. Mm-hmm. So you really get it, pretty quickly and you can then post whatever, whether it's film or originated as digital.
Yeah.
I think the ability to post to social and to share and to edit and all of that, is still streamlined. It's still very similar to one another.
Yep. All right. So you went to high school, you went to college, then somehow you landed in Toronto.
Yeah.
And so how did you get hooked up with these big players?
It takes time, right? I think with any profession, you really need to hone your skills. You really need to develop your networks. You know, and I think the thing with photography, or like, you know, any entrepreneur, whether it be yourself, whether you're doing art, photography, anything, you know, networking is a big thing. You're selling yourself, you know, like at the end of the day, that's kind of what you're doing. And so, and for me, I think it's always been just not putting on a face, not putting on an image. You know, I think I've always tried to quintessentially be myself.
Yeah.
And whether I'm hanging with friends, taking photos, or I'm dealing with a client, you know, at the end of the day, I want to be seen as and it taken seriously as Geoff Fitzgerald. Just, hey, what's up? You know, I don't want to put on this fake persona. And I think at the end of the day, when you're dealing with a lot of clients, you're dealing with people. You know, a lot of my shoots are on long sets. I'm on a set for 5 hours, 8 hours. You know, it's a 8-hour event that I'm shooting, or, you know, whatever it might be. And a lot of times at the end of the day, like, you want clients that you like, that you want to be around, that you want to work with. So that's a huge part. And I think for me, I feel like what's helped me be successful is I just try to be myself, man. Like, that's it. I don't want to put on a fake persona. So
yeah. I totally, that's the same across all industry. Like, you know what, it's nice when people know you and like you. And the people who I have had an opportunity to work with, and I'm like, I don't really like you, then we kind of get to say no, and that's okay. And then there's people who I'm like, oh man, I hope I get to work with you again, because that was a blast. And
totally.
that's what I want. I want, like, it's fun to make money doing what you love, but also I want to be working with people I like.
Yeah.
So I find with entrepreneurs, I'm like, you guys, they're hiring you, but you also have the power to say no, because it's not to work with people who are always like putting you under the thumb, or just mean people and whoever. So that's a lot of times when I speak to newer entrepreneurs, that's what I say, like, the power is in their hands, but it's also in your hands. You're not forced to work with anyone you don't like.
Oh yeah.
And just stay real, because people aren't sold out to Purple Bean Media. They're not sold out to any company name. They're sold out. They like you as a person.
That's right.
That's why. Yeah. Networking has been so key. I can't, like, it's not something I grew up with. I've always worked for people who probably did the networking and I didn't realize it. But now I'm like, man, like, having a base, having people who you can talk to and refer, and just like, even your competition, they're not really your competition. They're people you can be like, okay, I'm stuck with this. What are you doing with this situation?
Yeah, no, it's, you know, it's huge. Like, so I think, you know, just having that kind of general outlook, you know, I think it is just something to have. I think that's just important to do that regardless, whether it's business or not. Just like, be yourself, you know. Yeah, exactly. Be personable, and really though, it does take the right kind of it does take the right kind of personality. You know, whether you're a musician, again, anything, it takes the right attitude. You know, I'll work with somebody and I'll be my kind of outgoing, fun kind of, hey, you know, and person, you know, my friend or client will look at me and just be like, God, I could never do it. You know, they don't have the personality for it. You really do need to have that personality. And I'm not saying I don't turn it on a little bit when I'm working with people. You've got to, sure. But, you know, at the end of the day, you still want to always quintessentially be yourself. And I think that's hugely important. So, yeah. But to give you kind of a quick little, you know, your major question there was, you know, how did you get a chance to sort of work with some of these higher profiles? And again, like at the start of my answer there, it takes time. Yeah. And so, you know, when I first went to Toronto, I just worked at a camera shop. You know, I was like, oh, I need to pay off my student loans, and I got to pay off my debt, and, you know, gather some, you know, the network of Toronto. Like, I was new to Toronto. I'm a little Paris farm town boy, you know, like, this is the big city. Oh my God. Right. Yeah. And so, actually worked at a camera store at Henry's Camera downtown Toronto, for about 6 years. And during that period, I wasn't really shooting anything for clients. Like, I was a 21-year-old young little punk, trying to just hawk cameras and make a couple of bucks and pay off my loans. And so really with that, I created my network, you know, and that network includes not just clients, but friends, social circles,
Yeah.
the photography industry in Toronto, which living in Toronto for 15 years, whether you're into, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, all of them are smaller than you think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, much smaller than you think.
Yeah, I love that you started off with you were at the camera store just working out debt, because everyone just thinks it's like one magical flip of a switch is going to happen and then you're going to be at the pinnacle. And it's like it's like no one all of a sudden becomes, there's no overnight success. There's a lot of sacrifice and work and sweat and tears that people don't see. They just see hey, who's in, like, look what happened. So I love that you said that. That's so encouraging for people. It's just patient.
Yeah, it takes time. And you can't be hard on yourself. But you've also got to be willing to put in the work. It's not easy. You got to hustle. I was just hawking cameras. I was shooting the odd job here and there, and I was still kind of inexperienced either in the industry as well as just my own skills. Yeah. That earlier, you look at some old high school photos and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed, But yeah, so it's actually quite amazing because during that time at Henry's, I was able to, number one, when you're working at a camera store, when you're doing retail, and especially if something is unique and a niche, I don't want to say niche now because photography is not really niche, but you have your clients, you have your customers, right? And that sort of building of networks at Henry's, getting my customers that I could sell all those cameras to, kind of, subconsciously I was building the way you network with people. Yeah. And so I actually have a handful of clients that I have now. I left Henry's about 9 years ago to start a freelance business. And it's just, snowballed from there. But I have probably, I would say 3 to 5 clients that I work with now on a consecutive, and actually not right now, of course, but, in general, on a regular basis that were literally just customers of mine at Henry's.
Wow, that's awesome.
That I developed a friendship with. Hey, I've got this food business. I need some food photography. Awesome. Boom. Then it just kind of rolls from there. And so that was happening a few times. I was meeting people. My customers were kind of becoming more friends. Yeah. You build a relationship, you build a friendship, and then all of a sudden, hey, I need a little bit of work here. Hey, I need a little bit of work here. And so I was getting a couple of random jobs, and I started saying, okay, things are starting to roll here now. Maybe I can, do something with this. Yeah. And I took an assisting workshop in Toronto. So I actually did a weekend assisting workshop where you go and work with much larger, higher profile photographers within Toronto, and you assist them. So you actually get a chance to see firsthand how things work on a big set, how they deal with clients, all the back end work. Working with talent, like a whole bunch of variety of areas that I had never experienced before. Yeah. And so I think I did that for probably about 2 or 3 years, pretty steady. And that just gave me a huge dose of experience. And from there, that was it. I just said, okay, getting a few jobs now. And I went part-time at Henry's for maybe 3 months and started just snowballing more. And then I just said, all right, that's it. I'm out. I cut the umbilical cord, and it's a hard thing to leave a full-time job with benefits, and oh my God, it was so scary. Yeah, it's just what am I doing? I don't know when my next check is.
That the same thing. I was working part-time on my thing, part-time at a charity where I was the social media manager, and then I was like, you know what? I've got to step out, have faith that I know what I'm doing and it's going to work out. And I think if I devote my time and effort onto only my thing, something will happen. And once that happened, it was such a game changer because I was able to focus all my energy. And then it's when people talk and they're like, oh, I want to quit my job too. I'm like, well, I had things in place. I didn't just all of a sudden quit. I had some momentum. But the moment I was like, okay, I'm done, I'm going all in with Purple Bean, that's when things really snowballed fast. And I think then it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know where, what if 3 clients drop me, I have no money coming in, I got to hustle, I got to make some money. So then it just put a little bit of fire that I think I needed. Whereas
Yeah.
like, when you have that check coming in, you kind of have a safety net. So
Absolutely, the golden handcuffs, they say, right? Like, you've got it so good, you just, I'm comfortable.
yeah,
The whole crap or get off the pot sort of thing, right? I had to get off that pot.
yeah.
I wasn't gonna keep crapping, but
And it turned out so well. It's really cool to watch you. It's really neat to see how well you're doing.
you.
It's very
Yeah,
awesome.
I appreciate that, Sherri. And you've showed a lot of support for a long time, and so that's much appreciated. And it's really cool to reconnect and stuff too. Just having taken photography class so long ago together, and just have those old memories of whether it be school and just the art and it's been a journey for sure.
All right. So what's been your best shoot? Like, what's the one where you were like, man, I have made it officially. Like, I feel good.
I mean, if we're talking like the idea of like, oh, I've made it and this is like a big time thing. I mean, for a lot of, I guess not really international, if you will, but for me, like, I grew up, small town, farm boy, pair of skates on my feet when I was 5, since I could stand.
Yeah.
Big hockey fan, played it my whole life. My dad's a diehard Leaf fan. I was a diehard Leaf fan. Always have been, still am. And last year I was connected with a friend who called me up and said he's a fellow photographer, Jesse Milnes, great guy, super tight buddy of mine, name drop, what's up. He was booked for a shoot, got contacted by somebody through Instagram who he'd never met before, and asked him, hey, are you available for a shoot on Wednesday? He was already booked. It was one of those things where, when you're booked, you can't do anything about it. And he was told that it was with a Maple Leaf player. And he was like, oh, well, I'm not available, but I said, I know somebody who might be.
Yeah.
And he knows I'm a huge fan and stuff, right? And so, he tossed them my name, and they contacted me, and the shoot was for EA Sports to do a photo shoot with Auston Matthews, who's the, the big wig on the Maple Leafs.
He's our hope, man.
You know him, yeah. And so he was the new cover star of the NHL 20. And so I had an opportunity to work with an amazing crew at Taylor Reed Creative. We did a full day with him in Toronto. And then that led to us actually doing a shoot with him in Las Vegas, and also working with PK Subban. Nice. And then continuing on that to sort of journey within EA Sports, we ended up in Chicago of last year to do the player press release day. It's like a media day with the players.
Yeah.
So I actually sat in a room taking photos of like 30 of the top NHL players.
That's awesome.
Which is incredible. So when Alexander Ovechkin breaks Wayne Gretzky's record for goals.
Ooh, wow, when? Okay.
In 2 years' time, hopefully when all this is over and they're still playing, I have a really cool portrait of him that I took. So love to be able to show that eventually in the future. But yeah, Auston Matthews, like, oh man, I was just like #dream job right there, like for me.
That's amazing. That's very cool.
Yeah.
All right. And so.
Also, he's a wicked dude, by the way, just to say. Any haters out there, anybody who's like, oh, Auston Matthews, that mustache, he's probably a jerk in real life. He is the nicest, most down-to-earth, cool guy ever.
He looks down to earth to me. Like when I see him, he just reminds me of someone who could be from Brantford. Like he just looks like an good old Canadian guy, honestly.
Super chill guy.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's really neat. Okay, so that was your so far. Any big future plans? Like, what are your hopes for the future? Like, what would you, if you could do anything? What's your dream shoot?
To be honest, I really love traveling, and I think if I could try to connect with maybe some travel agencies and do a lot more travel photography.
Okay, yeah, because you went to Portugal, right?
I was in the Azores doing a piece, that's right, for a magazine called City Life, which is a Vaughan-based magazine.
Okay.
So that was like an assignment. I was there for a week with like 8 people, and it was just like everything was planned. Every day was planned out with different activities, and I just kind of went along for the journey and took photos. And I think for me, the sense of discovery, the sense of everything being exciting and new and fresh, it's I love that, and I love just kind of having my camera and just exploring and just shooting. So I know it's not like, oh yeah, I want to work with Oprah or like some high profile celebrity. I would just love to. I want to travel more. I want to travel and shoot more. I think that would be something I would love to include more in my in my business.
Yeah, that's honestly my favorite part of it too. Traveling's just fun.
Yeah.
So when you get to kind of like pair it up with something you love, that's even more cool. So.
Yeah, it's incredible. So about a year ago, I did a trip to Guatemala. And at the time I was living in Toronto, there was a young couple who lived below us, so we got to know them really well. And the gentleman was from Guatemala, and he said, "Hey, I'm going down to Guatemala. I go every year, and I hang out in this little beach paradise called El Paredon, which is about 2 hours south of one of the small little towns there." And he's like, I'm building a little hut and a little a little Airbnb on the beach.
Oh, cool.
There's nothing around but surfing. He's like, you ever want to come? You have a place to stay. And I was like, done. I'm there. And so I went on my own, packed my bags, stayed with him for 2 weeks. And one of the most amazing travel experiences I've had was during that trip. I actually managed to climb like 400-meter active volcano.
Wow.
So it's like there's an active one, and then there's a slightly larger non-active one.
Yeah.
And so you actually climb up the non-active one, and then you sit on the side of it, and the active one is like across the way, just like blowing up lava everywhere. And it was wild, like to sit on the edge of this volcano and watch this active volcano erupting. I was just like, this is what I live for, these kinds of experiences.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So how are you using social media with all your art? Like the one job came through Instagram, you said. How are you using it to really build your brand, shine a light on your photography skills
And the algorithm is funny, eh?
I know. It's so hard.
It's a funny one, yeah. I really wish like I could have just somebody be my social media guru full time.
Yeah.
That would be awesome because it's a full-time job. It really is. Like just setting up content with your hashtags and all that. It's a full-time job. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I try to walk a fine line, because I find that whenever I'm, scrolling through Instagram and, I sometimes see people posting once, twice, 3 times a day and, or maybe like 3 or 4 photos, one after another. And it's kind of overload,
Yeah.
I think there's a real fine line between keeping your viewers engaged, but also not bombarding them with content.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity, in my opinion.
Yes.
So, not necessarily posting a million times a day, but, why don't you, I try to keep it to sort of, a couple times a week, maybe, if I have a content or like a series of photos, or maybe I'm showing a bunch in a row, I might bump it to 1 a day.
Yeah.
But I think that specifically, I do try to walk that line of again, keeping people engaged, but not shoving it down their throat.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, on top of that, I think just, including the proper tags. I try to hashtag everything as appropriately as I can. I'll tag certain, like recently I was getting a bit of love from CBC Hamilton here in town. because I was doing some isolation portraits of people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And, something like that, I'm tagging CBC Hamilton, I'm tagging, a portrait, National Portrait Gallery thing, just, trying to pull people in through tags and hashtags. And really that's about it. To be honest, I maybe I could dig a little deeper into how to play the algorithm a little bit more, but it's hard. Like I'm a creator. I'm a content creator. I'd rather be out shooting and creating the content than spending all my time wondering how I'm going to market it to the right people. I think if the content is there, the people will come.
Yeah. And quality is such an important aspect. That's why I love now that Instagram has stories, because like for the lower quality stuff, but you kind of want to still share. And then now that you can add more than one picture to like a post, that really helps, because then you're not bombarding. Because sometimes you're like traveling or doing something special that you want to be posting a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're doing a really good job with it, because you always have a little bit of a story behind it.
Yeah.
And,
funny you say that, actually. For a long time, this was like a number of years ago, I would just post like a photo and I would put a little emoji or a little one phrase thing just to try to be cheeky, whatever. And over time, I've actually noticed that a lot of my content that's more engaged from people engage more when there's a personal element to it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, super tell me all your dirty secrets, personal, but just, let people in a little bit. Yeah. And I always used to say, let the images speak for themselves. I don't want to put something there because the photos should be, but no, so much of what I do, and I think, when somebody looks at a photo, they want that backstory, they want that connection, they want that sort of personal kind of story. Tell me a little bit about it, and I think that really, I've found that anytime there is more of a story and more of a personal touch, I find my viewers are more engaged. I get more activity.
Yeah, it's just like taking it a step further. So story sells. Like the nice picture will stop the scroll, but the story is what makes people say like, okay, what, and kind of more buy into you or whatever it's about.
Absolutely. That's right. Maybe it just takes that one photo with that one engaging story for your viewer to look at that, read it, and have like a whole other take on maybe who you are or like what you're really all about. And so the next time your photo pops up, they'll probably be more into, let's see what's going on this time,
Yeah, that's the secret sauce to social media. You have to let people in. And that was hard for me because before I did this whole job, I swear I never had a selfie, and I'm not exactly like, I'm a private person by nature. I have to actually push to share.
Yeah.
So being on Facebook, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I know it's the right thing to do. I know if I have the story, I know if I open up a little bit, I'll see the engagement. And that's what I want. I don't want 1 million followers. I want a smaller engaged group.
Yeah.
And stories work for a reason. That's the reason the big movies are the big movies, because they have a deep, deep story. And people can connect with that easier. So
absolutely, and whether it be a movie or a photo or something, it's everybody wants to connect and people want to just relate, And so when they see a photo or you're talking about social media and stuff, when people can sort of see themselves or have some kind of a relation to what they're engaging with.
Yeah,
it's just twofold, It really does add that extra layer. I really do like stories, though. By the way, if we're talking Instagram specifically, I try to keep my posts, not story posts, but my actual image posts, as curated and high quality as possible. And then the stories allows me the ability to maybe I make one post of an image. But then on the stories, I can drop in 2 or 3, hey, here's a couple outtakes of that same shoot. They're there and they're gone. And really, at the end, it's when you go back and you look through the feed, it's a little more curated.
And like that's what it's meant for. Instagram, our like profile is meant to be the curated, the stuff that makes people be like, wow, this guy can take pictures. I need to hire him. Whereas stories to me is a little more personality, a little more room for like not perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've also included like close friends through stories.
Yeah.
Which I think is really fun because, you just said earlier, and I agree with you completely. I might post the odd, like I just posted a self-portrait of myself that I had to take. And actually the reason that I took that was because I have a weekly photo assignment with two friends of mine who are also freelance photographers. And so we were kind of getting a little bored and a little stale with not shooting. And I pitched the idea of like, hey, let's do a weekly photo assignment. Every week we'll come up with an assignment with a couple variables, and we'll meet on the Wednesday of the following week, and we'll have a Zoom call, and we'll critique our photos. Mm-hmm. And so last week was self-portrait. So that was actually why I ended up making that picture.
Okay.
But on the average, I don't think I've once done a post where it's, hey guys, it's Geoff here. And just hit that click and subscribe button. And, I don't think I've ever done any post, whether it be a story or a regular post, where it's like me talking to my viewers.
Yeah.
That's just not me. That's just not.
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
So awkward. Trust me. I've done that before, and I'm like, I hate myself.
Well, I think for some, you kind of have to, right? Like,
yeah.
You're in a podcast sort of realm where you are sort of face to face with a lot of people, and that sort of direct engagement, I think, makes sense.
For sure.
As a photo creator like myself, I think I have the ability to kind of stay behind the camera a little extra, which I'm okay with. So.
Yeah, and that actually probably makes when you do post a real picture about yourself a little more like, whoa, there he is. Interesting.
Yeah, I like the element of surprise and a little bit of, don't want to throw it all out there.
All right, do you have a YouTube channel? How can people follow you? So you have Instagram, and what's your Instagram handle?
So my Instagram handle is G_Fitzy, Fitzy. Yeah, actually it's funny. Instagram is another reason why I haven't updated my website in probably about 4 years. It's literally like an online portfolio.
Yeah.
So I've got Instagram is probably the easiest way to follow me. YouTube, I have a Vimeo account. Which I've posted 2 videos on there, and I will be continuing to post more content on that video page.
Yeah.
Because I've added a drone to my arsenal, and just in general have shot a lot more video over the last few years.
Yeah.
I've found my business to be I grew up like a film buff. I was always like into movies, and I still am. I'm just like can name off actors and like quote films, and I love that. And so I think it was a natural progression and a natural sort of evolution from photography into video.
Yeah.
And so I brought my drone up to that volcano. I brought my drone. I've done stuff in Newfoundland. I've shot all over the place with that. And so, video content is something I'd like to try to push more myself. So I would say, have a look at the Vimeo channel. I think just my name, Geoff Fitzgerald, you can just search for that. But yeah, I'd like to try to sort of drip some more content for videos in there. But I would say the easiest way to follow a lot of my content is through Instagram.
Instagram, okay, I'll tag you on that. Okay, last question. What can you what kind of advice you can give to budding photographers, people who want to go into the field?
Let's see. There's so much, really. The internet is your friend. Really, when I went to Sheridan College, it was awesome. There wasn't, we are old, as we know, too old. God. When I was going to Sheridan, I had a flip phone still at the time. And, the internet was there, but it wasn't anywhere near the social media type of internet that it is now.
Yeah.
And so I've talked to people before, budding photographers, and I'm like, to spend, $20,000 to $50,000 or whatever it might be to go to school and all this stuff. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of content on YouTube.
YouTube University, man.
It's true. It really is true. Like, I think about the fact that if all of this, YouTube and tutorials, even literally like local workshops, are all over the place. So the wealth of knowledge is there. Be willing to tap into it. I think that's huge. And hey, look at what we're doing right now. I think the world of video conferencing is also something that I think you're going to start to see take off in a big way. Video tutorial workshops for photography, for whatever you're into. So like live channels, YouTube, articles, books. Hey, grab a book, go to the library.
The what?
Pip and my fiance Vanessa, she was a librarian for years there.
Okay.
It was one of the first things she asked me when we started dating. Do you have a library card?
Oh yes, I love the library. It's closed, right?
Yeah,
because of everything, but
yeah, and so there's lots of content. So just be willing to search it out and just dive into it, and just take it all in. I think that's huge. Don't expect to, like you said as well, don't expect to be a superstar, breakout, successful business overnight. Really, that's like, I don't know if it's necessarily advice, but it's just don't be hard on yourself. Continue to hone your skills. Continue to network with people. Be a yes man or woman. If there's an opportunity that pops up, I've been presented with so many opportunities over the last, let's say, 10 years, where I know it might not necessarily be the best money for a job, but I think about, well, hold on a second, who does this person know?
Exactly.
And then what other opportunities may they offer? So you've got to be looking at opportunities as doors to be opened. So don't ever be afraid to say no or to turn something down if you think it's going to push you further, to advance your own personal knowledge, to make a good connection, to maybe open the door through their network. Don't be thinking about what your network is. Think about maybe the people you're networking with and what network they have open to them.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I know a lot of people in my industries and other industries, they're like, I'm not taking that job. I'm worth more than that. I'm like, that's so short-sighted. Look at the door you could potentially walk. Like, you don't know what's on the other side. Yeah. So I'm like, I always tell people, I'm the yes girl. Like, if someone offers me an opportunity, it's a yes. Yeah. So especially at the beginning, when you're trying to grow, when you're trying to get the connections, when you're trying to even get the skill, or just to be able to say, yes, I have traveled. Yes, I have worked with a TV show, or yes, I have. And it's all about being able to say, yep, I have the experience. And I love that. It's amazing advice. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. That was gold.
Exactly. Just be a yes person. Just open yourself up to opportunity. And I think if I know this is going to sound super hoochie mama kind of like, ooh, voodoo stuff, but if you put that out into the universe, things aren't going to fall in your lap, but you'll be surprised the positive attitude, the sort of forward thinking attitude. If you put that out there, you're going to be rewarded. So, just keep hustling. Try to continue to always want to learn new things and try to, I'm let's just say, how long were we in high school? What is that? 20 years plus? Something like that.
Old,
That was the first time I started picking up a camera, I started shooting. I knew then I was in love with photography, and I knew that was what I wanted to do. Yeah. But I'm still now to this day, taking workshops, doing weekly assignments with friends. I'm still at that point where I'm furthering my own knowledge. And so
Yeah.
don't ever lose that desire to just like grow and learn.
Yeah, especially in the creative landscapes. We have the internet. We literally can sit at the feet of these amazing people, like people who are at the top of their game. And I'm just like, you got to take advantage of it. It's amazing. So
Yeah, that's
even
right.
during the quarantine, a lot of people are bored. I'm like, there's tons of, all these people are like offering free. They're sitting there in front of their computer, giving us all the information that we need. All we have to do is take it.
Yeah.
So my whole platform, I do the video thing a lot. And so I'd be like, hey, this is what you got to do on Instagram, blah, 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 blah. And then people are like, you shouldn't tell people because then they won't hire you. And I'm like, no, they'll hire me because they'll know I know what I'm talking about. And secondly, 99% of people, they'll listen and they won't do. So you can give all your information for free, and hopefully you speak to the one person who they'll actually take it and do it. And I love that. But for the most part, I don't know if it's because we're taking it for granted, especially like the younger generation, they've always had YouTube. But I'm like, man, there was a time where we couldn't see the best creators in the world. We had to buy like the National Geographic book and look. So we're in such a connected world right now, and I love it. So
yeah, it's wild, you know, like I feel like, you know, I was thinking the other day, I'm just like, wow, like, can you imagine we were going through this right now and we didn't have the internet? Like we didn't have that ability to stay connected. You know, I think it's in this sort of moment in time, we're realizing how important it is to be connected like this, how we are. You know, it's huge. And it's really going to be what's going to get us through this, I think, in the end. That, you know, on the other side, this is going to be it. So
yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate you taking time to sit and chat. And that was really good. I'm excited for the entrepreneurs to hear what you had to say, because you weren't just speaking to photographers. It was just great advice for everyone listening. So I'm really thankful for that. And so thanks for joining me, Geoff.
This was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed myself. Thanks so much for having me on, Sherri.
No problem.